There are a few videos that talk about farming legendary items in Watoga, but from what I've seen, they only mention going to the high school and the emergency services buildings. And those buildings are just a small fraction of the real potential that Watoga has to farm legendary items. So instead, this video is to demonstrate that every Protectron in the entire city of Watoga can spawn as a legendary, and oftentimes multiple legendary robots will spawn in quick succession or in the same area close to each other. I've also arranged the clips in the video to show the route that I take around the city, and the route I take also means that I don't need to server hop in order to keep farming while the spawns are on cooldown. So we're starting off by the train station here, and the first place we're going to look for legendaries is around the outside of the high school, but we're not going into the high school yet. Instead, how I avoid server hopping is by going back to the high school when the majority of robots around the city are all on their cooldowns. From my experience, Watoga is definitely the easiest and most rewarding legendary farm, even more so than a nuked White Springs, and for several reasons. The first reason is that you don't need a nuke to farm Watoga, so you don't need to deal with radiation, you don't need power armor, you're not using fusion cores. The second reason is that after you complete the Mayor for a Day quest, none of the robots in Watoga are hostile toward you, so you're not being attacked and you only need to use ammo to kill legendary creatures. But in White Springs, not only do you need to waste ammunition killing dozens of non-legendary ghouls, but the ghouls also rush and melee you, which causes additional wear on your armor. So these few details mean that Watoga is considerably less expensive to farm, and you'll collect a similar number of legendary items in a similar amount of time. To me, it seems obvious that Watoga was intended to be an endgame legendary farm. After the high school, we're going to the area around the Brotherhood of Steel vendor, but first we're going to check this street and the area around this little restaurant to the east, and then we'll make our way to the alleys and the patios just north of the shopping center. Now this area doesn't have any higher of a chance for legendary spawns than other areas in the city, but it does have more robot spawns. So this is the most likely place to find multiple legendaries in one spot, and I've got plenty of video evidence here to show you that. In addition to the Protectrons though, it's also good to check the swampy area just north of the city, as the super mutants, ghouls, and scorched that spawn back here can also spawn as legendaries. After we leave the Brotherhood of Steel vendor, we're basically crossing the city to the transportation hub, which is our next hotspot. But we're going to check all of the robots that spawn from these containers along the way. I think the most efficient route is to head west down this road into the middle of the city, where there are 2 container spawns on the south side of this big plaza here. After those 2, we continue heading west to this intersection, which is just northwest of the train station, and then we continue heading west on this main road to the emergency services building. The video does jump a little bit right here, but I'm just showing you that all 3 of these containers right around this intersection can spawn as legendaries. Now we're getting close to the emergency services building and the transportation hub, and around these 2 buildings is the second hotspot in the city with a high number of robot spawns. First we check the EMS building here, and both of these robots in the lobby might spawn as legendary creatures. Then I go into the EMS building, and it's possible for 1 or more legendary creatures to spawn up here also.
Run away!
After the EMS building, I clear the transportation hub and the area around it in the street, and there's 1 container to the south here that I check. Then I head to the north edge of the city and take the road back there east toward the Brotherhood of Steel vendor.
The transit hub of Watoga offers monorail and bus services. The transit hub of Watoga offers monorail and bus services to the greater Cranberry Bog area and beyond. Transit services. The transit hub of Watoga offers monorail and bus services to the greater Cranberry Bog area. The transit hub of Watoga offers monorail and bus services to the greater Cranberry Bog area and beyond.
Protect and serve.
Transit services wait time. Transit hub of Watoga offers monorail and bus services.
There is this one container spawn that I wanted to show which has an issue where the robots won't make it out of the container, and this does happen with other container spawns, but this one is the most likely to happen. I think the placement of this container might intersect with the ground in a way that interferes with this robot being able to exit the container, but that's just a theory. In any case, when this happens or when you don't get loot from a legendary, it's only frustrating if you let it be. Of course, I hope this kind of bug gets fixed, but for now I recommend just moving on. Don't let yourself get fixated on that missed opportunity because there are more opportunities just around the corner. And here, this road on the north side of the city is the final stretch of the route. Again, be sure to check the ghouls, super mutants, and scorch that spawn in the swampy areas because they can spawn as legendaries over here also. After this road, I head back to the shopping center area and see if the cooldowns are up yet. Usually I can do this route a couple of times and then notice that it takes a lot longer for the robots to respawn, somewhere on the order of like 15 to 30 minutes. So that's usually when I go to the high school and do the Monster Mash event for a bit while the area is on cooldown. I usually also need to go back to camp by that time to either stash items or restock.
Please exit the area at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your cooperation.
So Watoga is a great legendary farm with 2 convenient vendors nearby, and I want to suggest that instead of selling junk to these vendors, we start to collectively sell only the unwanted legendary items that we collect to these vendors. Sell your junk items at Harper's Ferry and the other train stations so that the 2 vendors in Watoga will have caps to buy the legendary items that you farm here or in other places but don't want. I think this would be really helpful for everyone and want to encourage that kind of cooperation in the community. I don't know where the game is headed in the future, but in the introduction video we're given the objective to rebuild, and the best way we can do that is by helping each other. And the last thing I want to encourage you to do is explore. There are at least 3 videos on YouTube that talk about farming Watoga, which only mention the high school and the emergency services building. I've done this route around Watoga numerous times and I rarely see anyone going to the outskirts of town. I bet a lot of you have wondered during this video how many times you've simply ran right past a 3-star legendary because you just didn't turn and look. There are a lot of people complaining about the lack of content in the game, and as someone who enjoys exploring the game, those complaints seem ridiculous to me. The world is full of content and it's very fun to explore, but the developers are intentional to not put things in the direct path between the train station and the shopping mall, for example. Do you see what I mean? If you spawn at the train station and run straight to the Brotherhood of Steel vendor, there's very little chance you'll see a legendary creature. In most games, it really isn't worth it to go out of your way, but I think going out of your way is truly where you'll find the most fun in Fallout. I hope you found the video informative and encouraging, and if you'd like to see more helpful content, please post in the comments what you'd like to know more about. Also, check out the channel called Rifle Gaming if you haven't yet, because he's really the only Fallout YouTuber that I highly recommend. He really explores the game, he likes to experiment, and he tries to provide useful information instead of rumors. And I hope that my videos can complement his in a way that is helpful for players who enjoy the game and want to learn more about how it works.